Please join me in welcoming Janna Levitt. So we're just going to get it up. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you very much for just doing all the technical setup. Happy to be here today talking about the catalog. It was just released it's about 95% complete several weeks ago, and I'm going to talk about it briefly and focus mostly on the Ontario designs and end with some frequently asked questions that I think Matt had asked me to respond to. So the focus of the catalog is infill housing, gentle density, I would say primarily urban, and it was done over an extremely fast 18 months across the country. It was very complex, but also very exhilarating. So I'm just going to talk for a minute or two about what catalog housing is, and you'll hear more about it from my colleague Michael, who's speaking next, and I'm actually going to paraphrase him now and say, catalog housing is both a system and a scalable and repeatable tool, and I think that's part of what links this to what we're all doing here with multiplexes in wanting to have something that's simple and scalable and repeatable. It's typically easy to modify and can suit a variety of different physical conditions as long as you stay within the framework of the prototype itself. They have a role in increasing the delivery of housing, and so I'm just going to see if I can lower this. Can I move this down? Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay, thanks. They have a role in increasing the delivery of simple housing solutions to market because it's a system that ideally has minimal complexity. In many ways, it's very akin to the conversation about prefab, and there were questions about that earlier. In the last 5 years, the federal government has initiated a lot of responses and support to have developments in rezonings that will allow for multiplexes across the country. The 2025 catalog is, with one exception, as I said, all infill housing and is really in response to the housing crisis. And as was talked about earlier by Chris Spoke, this catalog and the housing catalog in general is only one part of a broad spectrum of a response to the housing supply issue. Okay, so here's the first catalog issued by CMHC, which was newly created in 1947. It was initiated to address a housing crisis in 47 that was primarily due to vets returning to Canada and opting to relocate into urban centers. In 1947, if you wanted a catalog, you had to go to a Government of Canada bookstore, or you could order one on the phone or by mail, and the cost was $10. The interesting thing that we found out is that $10 was actually not the cost of the catalog, but it was a form of down payment for your catalog home that you were going to get, and it was attributed to your mortgage. It also allowed you, with that investment of $10, to apply for a CMHC mortgage, and it was the first time that this system had been tested out, so an incredible change in how things are working. The 2025 catalog is only available online, Anyone can download it for free. All you have to do is sign the terms and conditions. The current catalog the current catalog is, as I said, again in response to a crisis, this one in 2025. So I just am going to do a brief comparison between the two, because I think what it does is it frames some of the issues around the construction and design of simple housing. So in 47, it was just a greenfield site. You took a couple pages out of the catalog, you had someone help you with a site plan, and then you were off to the races. It was a very monocultural society, so you had a lot of a greater sense of what you were designing had the most impact for the most amount of people. And it was primarily young and upwardly mobile nuclear families, and so this housing was assumed to be a support and a start to many young families who would move around, maybe even across the country. And also, and this is critical, a design professional was not required to do the work. In 2025, as I said, it's an urban infill multi-unit housing catalog. It's a multicultural and much more socially diverse group of people across the country that we're designing for. Aging in place and enhanced accessibility are two really key issues. And the climate crisis, a design professional is required, and that's a critical difference. And the climate crisis is a key part of the response of the 2025 catalog, and also part of the requirements that are covered in the catalog in terms of the documents required for a permit. The RFP required us to respond with architects who could cover the 7 regions that CMHC divided the country into. The north is the Taylor Group, BC is Michael Green Architects, Alberta is Dub Architects, the Prairies is 546 and Oxbow, Ontario is LGA, Quebec is Canva, and the Atlantic region is Abbott Brown Architects. In retrospect, I think that the catalog was issued with this idea that these regions would be sort of coherent in terms of economic heft and share a lot more similarities that I think, in fact, it turned out to be the case. We also, at the time of the RFP, responded with a national team. It wasn't asked for, but we could see even then that in order to do a catalog this quickly and to be able to design regionally specific housing that was more complex than single family, that we had to have a national team that could establish a framework that all the regions could then respond to. So again, it was LGA and MGA, and then a list of national consultants, urban strategies that did planning work, half for the environmental, office in search of, who did all the renderings, and BLC, who did real estate. And this was one of the suggestions that we had for CMHC, is that they needed to have a snapshot nationally of what the real estate values were and market comparisons. We had a quantity surveyor, rehousing that you'll hear more about for the site selection, and Kerr Smith for the graphic design. And then finally, I want to acknowledge the CMHC team. These 6 individuals worked as hard as we did and are still working really hard to make this catalog as successful as it is, and to work with the municipalities to bring it to market a lot more easily. So now I'm going to walk you through the documentation for the Ontario designs, because I know that's really where your interest lies, and also the range of material that you get and the rationale for how it's organized, how it is, so you can work your way through it. So one of the things is each region of the country has this same typologies for all 7 regions. There's 2 ADUs, 2 townhouses, 2 4-plexes, and 1 or 2 6-plex. It was interesting when we started that, again, because of the federal government's involvement with the HAF funding for the previous couple of years, all of the regions were in the midst of doing some of the rezoning that both Matt and Chris talked about, so it made part of our job a lot easier. The technical package, so when you download it, it tells you what you get. And I'm just going to go through it quickly because it tells you, it alludes to the complexity of building a multiplex now, but also shows you the amount of work that's in here that's going to save you time and money when you make your applications. So you get the architectural and engineering drawings in several formats. You get the energy, HOT 2000 energy model templates, BC. For BC, you get their energy modeling guidelines and step codes. You get user guides, and you get the terms and conditions. And then you get a number of additional resources, of which I'll show you in a second, and there's more of those coming. And you should notice the number of technical documents addressing energy and carbon. As I mentioned earlier, the whole carbon climate crisis and resilience issue is huge, and whether you believe in it or not, it has influenced the way in which we work and influenced the types of documents that we need to submit to the city. So all of the energy and carbon modeling and codes and templates are all requirements of a permit. In addition, you get these guides, and these guides are really helpful, and there's one more coming, which is the site design guide. So there's the user guide, and that walks you through step by step all the different issues and all the different drawings and how you use them. There is the cost guide. That is a combination of the work with NBLC on the real estate comparisons, and also Vermeulen's, who did a costing per typology across the country and did the analysis to see the cost comparisons. And then there's the climate resilience guide. Part of that with the climate resilience guide, because this is a national catalog, these guides go through some general knowledge issues for the country as a whole, and then you can just go to your region to find out about what specifically you need to do or what you need to know about in each of these guides. So the climate resilience guide is in part to allow you to understand why you have to do some of this energy work, but also goes through issue by issue things that everyone is facing now, like flooding and material changes, carbon changes, and what you can do about it. And then the material guide, and there's going to be an update for the material guide that will respond to the current tariff situation. So that'll be extremely helpful for everyone here who's working on their projects. The technical guide, the technical package, this is just, sorry, I thought it hadn't changed. The technical package, this is a snapshot of some of the drawings. It's a complete set of drawings that is near permit ready. So you can see here, there's some red in each of those drawings. We had to figure out a system that we could provide a set of near permit ready drawings and indicate to whomever you're going to take this set of drawings to a design professional and say, okay, I really like this building. Please make it permit ready. So we had to devise a system to make it permit, to help people get permit ready. So the red type that you can see just slightly in the thumbnail sketches alludes to the parts of each drawing that need to have your design professional pay attention to. And I'm just going to walk through the different designs. One of the things that we had to do is for CMHC was to have at least one version that responded to the CSA ASA B65223 standards. Big mouthful, but very important for everyone sitting here who's involved in multiplexes that wants to get CMHC funding, because this is going to be, from what we understand, the new requirement for compliance, for accessibility, if you're going to be able to secure funding. And that standard has some significant knock-on effects into the design of the unit. Some of our units, Ontario had some of the most narrow lot sizes, and in our narrowest lots, we couldn't provide that consistently, but in the wider ones we could, and in one of the ADUs we could as well. So this is an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU, and this is on a narrow site. And the thing you'll find is that each of the typologies, we developed a design for a narrow lot and a wide lot, and that's also consistent across the country. So you can see there's an accessible ready plan and then an enhanced plan for the ADU. And then on the wide site for the ADU, we have just a main floor plan and a second floor plan. And the reason we don't have an accessible one here is that this is one of the few where we actually were able to include parking as an option as part of the basic typology. The stacked townhouse, here's the narrow site, and you can see all the dimensions. And we've shown it here as a set of three. So to illustrate the fact that you can aggregate these as many times as you want. It's got a main floor, second and third floor, so it's a basic stacked unit. In this case, you can have an accessible unit, but not an enhanced accessible unit. The stacked townhouse 2 is for the wide site, and there you can see we were actually able to accommodate both kinds of accessibility, just the ready, accessibility ready, and the enhanced. And then again, second and third floor stacked. The fourplex, we were able, of course, to accommodate both kinds of accessible units. The lots are a little bit, significantly wider, I should say. And then the second and third floor, you can see, again, there's a 2-floor unit on the second and third floor. The wide fourplex, again, able to accommodate both kinds of barrier-free or accessible units. And then in this case, there's only a second floor plan. And then the sixplex, we only have one here, and it was due to a number of reasons. The sixplex now is starting to become more acceptable in more municipalities, but it at the time was less so. And also because the sixplex has some challenges with some of the current zoning. So this was about the only one that we could fit in the zoning, and I would expect that to change, and I hope one of the things that happens with the catalogue is that people can provide feedback for the changes that they've been able to do. So we've done an accessible and an enhanced ground floor here. The other thing about the sixplexes, and it's something, I'm not sure Michael's going to talk about that today, but once you get into this size of building and the number of units, and you don't want to go for a compliance alternative with a single stair, then a scissor stair is about the only efficient way that you can get the units to work well, unless you have a very large lot, and of course that costs you more money. So that's what we've been adopting is a scissor stair for these larger units. And then you can see that here with the second and third floor. And then these are the questions that Matt asked me to address. Does the catalog house save time and money? So yes, it does. It saves the time and money to get a set of drawings that you can bring to a design professional. And if you're only going to enact minimal changes, I would say within a week you can apply for a permit. If you want to make changes, you can still make the changes and save the time and save the investment of starting from scratch. And it's really just a question of your financial modeling. How much do you want to change? How much does that cost you? And do you think it's worth it in the end? So absolutely. Is parking included in the catalog designs? Except for the one ADU that I showed you, it's not currently included. It's not, and it's partly or primarily due to the fact that because these are theoretical sites, we were working with what was the minimum lot width and depth you needed to accommodate a multiplex of a certain size. When you look for your lot size, if you're going to purchase a site, you would look at the site for that we show in the catalog, and then you would add on to that whatever you need in terms of a side yard, a rear yard, in terms of access to the site and for parking, and that's certainly something that a design professional can help you with. It's also something that the site design user guide will provide, and as I said, that's coming out in a month. Is modular design part of the catalog? No, it's not, but we are already working with a modular designer now to optimize a fourplex, and I think there's a lot of applicability to a whole range of both panelized modular fabricators and whole unit modular fabricators. Why don't designs include basements? Well, they don't include basements for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons was across the country, the issue that all the regions talked about the most was flooding and the cost of floodproofing, the insurance mitigation and hesitancy now to insure houses in more and more regions due to flooding, and the costs associated with basements, and on top of that, the cost from carbon to include basements. So we felt that not having basements was a forward-looking move for all those reasons, for cost and for carbon, but there's nothing in the catalog that would stop you or the catalog designs from adding a basement. And are the plans adaptable to different lot sizes? Yes, they are, because what we've shown is the minimum, but again, looking at your needs as the end user, you can adapt that however you want with the site that you have or the site that you're going to purchase. And now I'm going to hand it over to Michael. Thank you.